All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Huge news overnight. Bitcoin 100% up in the last 108 days. But the even bigger question that everyone is wanting to know and they believe has potentially begun is the altcoin season cycle, the mania cycle, the parabolic move when Bitcoin goes absolutely bananas, but altcoins do even bigger gains. I've got the charts to get through in today's video with you, looking back over the last 2 years, but addressing the analysis from that period to help us identify this next 12 months moving forward, to see whether those times have continued on or at least continue to play out so that we can be more confident in what we expect or anticipate to happen next and how we can play that to our best advantage. Hit the like button if you do find value from the content. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Each of the day's analysis builds upon the previous day. It's your home of macro cycle analysis, covering Bitcoin, cryptos, the stock markets, and the real estate cycle. So covering everything here so we can get an overall picture of the financial space. Links in the top of the video description for our Black Friday sale coming up next week, plus that mini masterclass that I told you about in yesterday's video. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But the main thing that we want to kick off with is the overall cycle and I guess the feeling about what people are looking for and what I think is going to happen, as I'll show you in the charts and the analysis as well. So this was something that I put out nearly a month ago now. At the time, Bitcoin had not broken out to a new all-time high, and a lot of people were sort of waiting for this swoop down to lower prices. So that was back through this area here. You can see it was around the 27th. We had a slight pullback here to a higher low, and then basically the market took off from that point. And as I said in the post here, those who are still waiting for one more swoop of the lows will likely miss out again. So that was the feeling at the time in the market. It was almost as if everyone thought we had this double top and essentially this market had to come down, take out the lows so that they could all get in at the best possible price because they've already seen the price, and then the market would take off and basically make them absolutely rich. And essentially the market doesn't like to do that. It will give you a few opportunities, but it's not going to keep giving you opportunities. If you can read the chart and you see there was one massive one here, you don't have to get in on all of them either, but you just need to be able to read it. Another one here where we had the higher low. We had another one here, another higher low, even if you got in the higher low just before that to this one here. And then again, higher low, and it just keeps telling you something is building here. There is some strength that is building in the chart. And so you're probably wondering, well, if it's already pumped up from this point, and we've done 100% in 108 days, and from that level at 67K, we're now at 99, just short of $100,000 for the first time ever. Is this thing over? And I guess if you've been following, you know that we've been building for nearly 8 months in that period. I'll give you the bad news first. If this does correct, and there's going to be a correction at some point, maybe we shoot up to our next targets around 102, maybe it gets to 122K and then corrects. Any sort of correction above the reaccumulation zone is okay. If it falls into this reaccumulation zone again, where that 72K level was, which was very, very significant at the time, and closes under there on your weeklies and your monthly basis, that is a very bad sign. So I don't want to fill everything with the negativity, but you need to be prepared because at the end of the day, you want to make money. You don't want to have all hot smoke blown up your ass telling you you're going to get another 100x altcoin. So that would be the bad sign. The good news is any corrections from here, provided they don't go that low, are basically part of the bull market. Basically higher swings, higher lows coming in, and then prices continue up. When you get an 8-month, this is basically from the experience that I've had over the last 14 years trading, as I've talked about before, 18 years in the property market. When you get big consolidations, and for Bitcoin, this is a very considerable consolidation, 8 months, 7.5, 8 months. If this is going to keep going, you're going to expect roughly around the same amount of time to the upside. There are going to be corrections in the middle, just like we saw here. You had this period from March into October, so about a 6-7 month period. And then from October into March again, it ran up. So it was roughly around the same. You had about probably 6 months up and then 7 months of consolidation. And when we look at from the breakout point on the 6th of November, that's really just longer than 2 months. So there is the higher chance that we're going to see further upside to this move, even if there are corrections. The difficulty, and I've said this all along for years, is the bull market is the tough part. I'm sorry to keep giving you all of the, like the tough love here, but the bear market is absolutely, in my opinion, and I think you've actually seen it yourself now, the bear market is the easy part. So if you're finding things difficult, just know that, yes, even I find the bull market difficult. Other people also find the bull market difficult. Those who say that it's not difficult, wait until you see what their portfolio looks like at the end of this entire campaign, which I think is kind of like your last attempt or your last chance here, because we've already gone through 2 years. The bull market has been going for Bitcoin for 2 years, and altcoins really only have that sort of 12 to 18 months. So that's what I mean by these sort of things. You don't want to wait for these opportunities when they've given you signals multiple times to be getting into the market. Just like this signal here. Massive, massive one. We've been following this obviously for months, but basically a daily watch of this, because this is really what has broken, well, this has broken down, but this has basically pushed the rest of the market up. Now, of course, it's only a day, but as you can see, when this level broke, things have gone crazy over here, and ETH has also jumped up 10%. Where's my ETH over here? There it is, nearly 10%. ETH BTC has also jumped up, and you're also seeing just cents off a new all-time high for Solana. Solana's over at 256. It did touch about 259 earlier, and the all-time high is at 260. So another coin from the previous cycle getting close to new all-time highs. So this really was a massive, massive signal and trigger for that sort of mania stage. Mania doesn't mean that today you're going to be a millionaire. This thing has been building for a very long time, and it's just step by step by step. And that's why I bring this up, because it's basically step by step by step that you start to either get more profits, or it starts to run away from you. The market starts to run away from you. We had the opportunities on the breakout here, some more entries here. Sure, you could have bought up any time through that area. I liked under 60K, and I said that many, many times on the channel. Sure, it went to 49, 50K, but anything under 60K you can see now really was a pretty good buy. And then there's signal after signal after signal. So that's why I'm sort of positioning this video as like a last chance. The bull markets are hard, and the longer you leave it, the more difficult it gets. Right now is the start of the difficult season, because, well, at least what I've seen in the past, anytime you get these corrections in the bull market, they can be quite violent and wild, and that takes a toll on yourself as a trader, and obviously trying to get into these markets. USDT dominance, at least on the daily, we've broken down 4.2%. So that was my first target there. If this market can break that, if USDT dominance breaks down, you're going to see more money flow into Bitcoin and altcoins. The next target to the downside is around that 3.8%. Why? Well, you had the previous all-time high, so the $74,000 top for Bitcoin, that was in March. That was a key level, and the market bounced from there. And then going back into history, you got a little bit of support back in 2022. So another key level, that breakdown, that could then trigger even more money flowing out, which makes things even more tough if you are not positioned the way you want to be in the market. Positioning just means, have you got enough of your funds into the coins that you want to hold? Doesn't matter whatever it is you want to hold, you just want to make sure that they're going to be affected by the dominance dropping, meaning your coins are going to go up, unlike some of the older stuff, which doesn't necessarily go up as well. Look at that, Jitto, 20% today. So that's a look at what we were looking at here with the USDT dominance months back, or maybe even just last month. There's a quick look at the breakdown here. So that was the October breakdown. Then there was this chart that I brought to you all throughout the bear market to hopefully instill the confidence that we were turning the corner into a bull market. And from the lows, it was very difficult for the majority to see that we were coming out of a bull market. I know I've said it many times before. Essentially, this whole period of late 22 from June 22 was a big one. That's where even Elon Musk said we're going to be in a recession until the summer or the spring of 2024. That was Elon Musk saying that. So minority of you'll probably see this at the tops. This is a side note to longer term investing. You're going to get these sort of guys, nothing bad about them whatsoever, but they have zero clue when it comes to about the 18.6 year cycle. They will probably say that the economy is fantastic around peaks, just like they do at the bottoms of the market. They say it's absolutely bad and things are going to get worse. And it didn't. Things didn't get worse. And basically we've been up from that point for Bitcoin, your stock markets, real estate, everything like that. Okay. Side note, some of you are going to take that as an offense. Others will actually understand that and use it into their own investing to their benefit. Okay, so from that point, huge move to the upside. This particular chart, S&P 500, I know I can go on some rants, but hopefully, you're sort of using this for your own long-term investing. From these accumulation periods, we then get into a bull market. So roughly, 12, 11, 10 months. And I think we have just triggered that now. This month, November has been the month that triggered that. This hasn't changed, right? I may have extended these little blue markers out by a month or brought them back by a month, but really it's just to look at an accumulation, and it's just for an approximation, right? 24 months, 27 in the first one, 23 in the 2020 to 2021 bull market. So this is sort of that accumulation period. And now I think we've broken out of our 23 to 24 month accumulation. We hit an all-time high this month, so I could take it back to where it was at 23 months, which is that peak in October. This I had posted in March, basically telling us that was a Bitcoin pause or correction because the S&P, for basically the first time out of that all-time high, corrected as well. S&P continued to grind, Bitcoin continued to consolidate, and now we're both running in lockstep to the upside. This was also there, conditions, shallower S&P 500 pullbacks, and that's essentially what we've got compared to what we had earlier, and these sort of significant moves in 2022. So that's also happened, and you guys probably remember that. Q4 party time. We're in Q4. I think people are feeling a lot better now than what they had done at any time on the way up, but we've obviously seen massive gains, like 500 or close to 600% for Bitcoin since the low. Let me get that exact low to the current top. 540%, so like a 6x, right? So this is also on track. After I'd showed you this 2 years ago, looking at how bear markets form and how the S&P is kind of an indicator for Bitcoin, and then I'm also looking at Bitcoin as an early warning sign that maybe the money has stopped flowing, and it might just take a little bit more time, maybe 6 months or so, for the S&P to start to peak out. And then everything will roll over at the end into the bigger collapse. And I don't think we would see another new all-time high in that next 4-year period. So that's potentially what I'm looking at. But it's still years away, or at least several months, sort of 12 months away for Bitcoin. We've got plenty of time to continue to assess the data as it comes in. For now, just keep the party rolling. And speaking of the rolling party, here is my red arrow. This is the year that we are in. It's the Bitcoin to altcoin year. Now, of course, the majority of the year hasn't been the best to be moving your Bitcoin into altcoins, but for a select few altcoins, it has done the trick. You could be in your dog coins, like what's this one? Dog. You had Doge right here. So Doge has also been a pretty good bet throughout 2024. You want to look at this against its BTC chart. So for, I guess, the first half, not so good. The second half has been the time. And also your dog with hat coins. If we look at the BTC chart, the first half of the year, you had the pump and the dump basically back to the same level. And then the second half of the year, you're a little more in front. So you've got better returns there in dog. But you could go down a number of coins and just have a look at this being the year to be changing from Bitcoin into altcoin. So the risk increases here. Your attention needs to be focused, but this is the most easy time to get a monkey brain. I talk about that with our members a lot. You're just trying to get onto way too many coins, and when you look at the returns, they're kind of about the same. I did this with some of the meme coins, and they're up. Say I picked 3 of the majors in the memes, 350% each, maybe 400, 450. So you could say, well, that was a big difference, but are you actually going to catch every last cent of that move or every last percent of that move? And I'm not. Maybe you're better than me. That's cool. But yeah, if you're sort of monkeying around between different coins, you end up missing out a lot. So understand them, learn the charts, and then you can sort of go on that ride and keep your attention focused, because now the attention gets ridiculous, which goes into year 3, typically the altcoin year. And that is what we saw in 2021. We saw it in 2017. Bitcoin also had a fantastic year in 2017. And we also saw it in 2013. That was back in the days when there weren't so many altcoins and basically everything was called something coin, trying to replicate Bitcoin. Your Litecoins, was it OneCoin, Namecoin, all this sort of garbage that was back then, which, none of that is around now. So the name of the game moving forward is keep your attention on your portfolio. Try to remove a lot of the noise. The noise comes out now. As you know, there wasn't really much noise in year one or well, there was a little bit in the first half of year two, but basically in year one and at the lows of the second half of year four, the noise was basically around everything is too bearish. Now everything is going to be around extreme bullishness. So keep your head about you moving forward. Another sign here that we are early and last chance. We're early in this move out of the breakout, but it's kind of the last chance. When I'm looking at it, when I'm talking about last chances, I'm breaking up the bull market. So I've just showed here that we have this sort of 1, 2, 3 years and then the 4 years typically down. I'll address this in a future video, otherwise this one's going to go on way too long. But yeah, essentially here you got the breakout. I pointed this out, huge volume, and this is a chart that I've shown months and months ago, possibly even a year or two ago, when we were looking at the low coming in, as it showed up with the volume, giving you a very, very solid signal on Coinbase here. So a reputable exchange, or at least a lot of volume that comes through there, so you can get a better picture of how these signals come up. You've got extreme volume at the low, more volume compared to the last several months there when the market started to break out in October of 23. So 13 months ago, and then you started to get that volume on the next tops as well. We had the pullback, significant bottom with significant volume here, and now we're at the breakout point. So you can see here we had a breakout, increased volume, and then the volume continued to increase into this final peak. Well, the peak before the peak, and really Bitcoin didn't run much further than that. You've also got more breakout volume here in the first leg out in 2019, more breakout volume. Essentially, you're just following where the money is going. And is it earlier in the move, or is it basically the top, around the top in the move? Like you can see here, that clearly is getting towards extreme bubble territory, huge volume after a prolonged move to the upside, sort of 11 months from that breakout into a new all-time high, which I believe I have on this chart right here. So this one here, looking at the cycles low to low, I've got 35 months, and it seems almost ridiculously obvious to maybe you and I, because we've been following this 4-year cycle for quite some time, looking at lows to tops, lows to lows, and where this top comes in. But remember that there's a lot of new money into the game, or I think there'll be even more new money into the game, who don't necessarily see this, use it. Maybe they've seen it, but they don't believe it, because how can it be possible? And typically when that happens, it's so often that it repeats time and time again. Maybe this time it rhymes, and we got to watch out for like a 30-month top that comes in the first half of 2025. You have a bit of a pullback, or a longer pullback than the two previous moves, like the two previous bear markets, which could then lead to like an 18-month pullback or a 14-month pullback compared to the 12 months that we saw the last two times. And then we start to go again. It's still too far out for that, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I'm just saying that we are now halfway through the cycle overall, the 4 years, and we are 2 years into the bull market with a possible 1 year to go. And if it is roughly 1 year, like the way it worked out in 2021 and in 2017, well, then that 11 months from this month takes you out to about October of 2025, so about Q4. So I'm definitely on the lookout for peaks coming into the market, whether that's the final peak, or like we saw in 2021, where we did have a very significant first peak, a pullback, and then a top, the final price top towards the end of that year. But you really didn't see too much more in the price gains for BTC. So yeah, now we just got to be on alert to try and take as much as we can from the market, leave a little bit extra in there for the next person so it looks like a great deal, and you just get out and go and do what you need to do with those funds. You can see here 37 in the first cycle. I've talked about why I'm using that as a cycle low. So yeah, if you want to average through them, maybe that's 36 months, and you just take this out to the next month, which would be November. So it'd basically be exactly 3 years. Lots to do here, but essentially last chances into this peak. But this peak seems to be one of the biggest peaks, or the biggest legs of the move, according to Michael's Elliott Wave. Go follow him. Links are in the video description right here. Actually, I'll refresh that so it works. But Michael's Elliott Wave count has been second to none throughout this entire cycle. And he gave this to us about 18 months ago, I believe was the first one. He could correct me. Maybe it's even 2 years ago when we started to look at it through the early part of 2023. So coming up to 2 years. We had the leg 1, the 2, looking at the yellows right here, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then we're into wave 5. And within that major wave 5, we have multiple other waves. So you break it down. And if you don't like your Elliott waves or you don't believe in it because you've seen so many people use it and it doesn't work, I totally get you. I see a lot of people try to apply the wave and it just doesn't make any sense. Right now, Michael's has been very good. You can go and check that for yourself, as I said. But I guess what I'm getting at here is typically in these cycles, the wave 5 can be the largest. Wave 3 so far has been the largest, and wave 3 can't be smaller than wave 1. So that's the first thing, and that didn't happen, so we're definitely on track. Commodity cycle, especially towards the end of the cycle, and we've talked about our 18.6 year cycle quite a lot. This is the final leg into the peak. So maybe we do get an even bigger run into the top, which is why I talked about this period here, being that maybe we do get this sort of dip, and then we keep going towards the end, and then we come crashing down. So we end up getting a left translated cycle in the next 4-year cycle, which would look like an extension of this cycle, but it's not. Some of you might be following that. Otherwise, I'll keep updating that as we continue through with this particular cycle. So that's the Elliott wave. Basically, long and short of it, the too long didn't read. Wave 5, usually pretty special and pretty big. And the wave 3 within the wave 5, which is what this one is here and here and here, are typically the largest. So you can see here from the first one, within that, that's the biggest wave out of each of those, 1, 3, and 5. And then here, you had your 1, then you had your 3, and then your 5. So wave 3 is bigger as well. So if we are in this now, this is, as I said, something to do with, in the title, like the mania stage. This particular wave could be that wave that you don't want to miss out on, because everyone's sort of waiting for this pullback and it doesn't necessarily come. So that's what I tried to implant in our minds at the beginning of the video, and then show, at least on my short-term charts, that this could keep going. And if we have corrections, that's okay, but it could keep going because wave 3 is typically the biggest and the strongest of the move. Now, no video is complete without going through some altcoins. And of course, I'll check out Solana and the majors, but just wanted to mention the mini masterclass that I talked about in yesterday's video, talking about what do you do at the end of this cycle? What do you do with your profits? Where does it go? I'm giving you ideas, analysis, charts on how you can break this down for yourself, for your own individual plans and your own individual situations. The link to this is in the top of the video description. This one right here. Subscribe to the free report. You'll also be notified when the Black Friday sale goes out. Plus, you'll get the weekly reports on crypto and the economy. And then you'll also get access into the free Discord area. And you just go check out TIA updates, and it has now been posted. So I got to that yesterday. That one's also a great one you can come back to in the future if you want to identify how to do that, like how to start to shift your profits around towards towards the peak of anything, or in any sort of collapse, like where to go from there. And I'll continue to build on that as well, because it's a pretty good topic to go through, especially if you are taking profits towards the end of the cycle. Now, Solana, as I said, we are cents away from a new all-time high. There's $259.89, and the top back in 2021 was 260. So not far off that now, and it is definitely in the stronger position of the top 10 coins. So that's also looking quite strong, and it's a good play against any of the meme coins, especially if memes keep going and they're all on Solana. Well, why wouldn't you want to have the the chain that is playing with a lot of the meme coins? Sol BTC also hanging out in a reasonably strong position here. It's still trying to confirm its position above the 50% level. So you can see how important these 50% levels are throughout the journey into that next strong phase. If this does hold and these tops break, you tell me what that looks like. That looks like a pretty strong bullish pattern. So you'd expect this to push higher, break the next top, break the next tops here, and then the next one. That can take time, but with this long consolidation, it could also be quite quick once we get to that altcoin mania stage, when basically, if you hadn't packed your bags already, it's going to feel like absolute crap to you. So make sure you're on the right stuff, things that are moving at that time, and take some profits along the way. The next thing we look at is the ETH BTC chart, and it hasn't been great over the last several months, of course, in 2 years from the top. However, look at this volume coming into it on Binance. Big volume on the way down, but we've seen this at each of the lows. You're starting to see a lot more action come back into ETH, and the sentiment was pretty terrible over the last few weeks. You can see across X, on YouTube, all I saw was, ETH is a dead coin. I even talked about it being pretty rubbish, but you can see that it's building up. So I'm not going to be selling off my coins when you got these higher lows coming in, more volume coming in as it's breaking resistance. That is a very strong sign. And typically you'll see extreme negativity towards the higher lows. You remember how we talked about this in March of 2023 when the rest of the world was looking for recessions? We had the banking crisis. It's the same signal. It's the same human psychology that comes up every single time. You get almost like there's more extreme fear or even more fear than the low. That's such an important one that I've learned along the years. There is the low, and here are your higher lows, this and this. And I'm hearing more about how bad ETH is here than what I heard about it at the low in August. So fear worse here at higher prices than it was back here is a pretty good sign. It's almost like 100% guarantee. I'm not saying it is 100% guarantee, but when I've used it, it has been absolutely amazing. And typically you'll start to see things go pretty haywire from there. That is how I called at the time that Bitcoin low here in March. If you're following this banking crisis, the price went under 22,000, basically touched under 20,000. That was the banking crisis, and everyone was looking for basically Bitcoin to crash to 15. And I can prove that with this. Looking at Bitcoin under 22K, and if you look at the comments, they're all saying, I think it's going to go lower. I'll see you at 10K. I'll see you at 12K. Under 10K, I buy. I doubt it. It's like impossible. It was almost impossible that would happen because of how good the price was. So all I'm saying here is with ETH, before I go on another sideways rant, is that when you get this extreme negativity at the lows, or at the higher lows, and the negativity is worse than previously, then it's a pretty reasonable signal that you're going to see higher prices from here. I think it's one of the best kept secrets in trading, and it's a difficult one to use if you're just starting out. So hopefully you can take that and then use it time and time again to learn and see for yourself in the charts. But it's got to be used at very significant lows, not just any low. And you'll see it on that higher low as opposed to the actual low. So yeah, ETH is looking relatively, well, it's looking okay on the USD chart. On the ETH BTC chart, we might be starting this sort of shuffling here between Bitcoin and ETH, sort of getting back into that ETH. You're seeing this pump up on big volume again. We had it just recently in early November. So ETH really needs to get back above in the short term 0.035 to confirm this strength, if this is actually going to be that move up. If it is, well, it sort of works out pretty well with the timing of the previous cycles, low, big pump up, pullbacks, and then we go for the next couple of months just for the ETH BTC. And that should all work out relatively well with ETH breaking the next dollar resistance levels. First being 3,600, as I pointed out in this post, really needs to get above that key resistance at $3,600, this top here. And then of course the next ones are around your 4,000. That happens, probably going to a new all-time high there for Ethereum. And finally, onto some other altcoins, meme coins. We've looked at the dog coins. They're holding up above 50%. They've all been relatively okay. And Sui, the other big one here, is also holding up big volume after it pulled back to $3.30, and now we're back at $3.60. So if this is all shifting, as you can see from the Sol BTC chart, the ETH BTC chart, some of the strength in the meme coins, Bitcoin may be slowing down as it reaches its price targets of sort of 100, 102,000. The first one, just the short term again, then maybe you could start to see some of this money flow back. And on top of that, USDT is starting the breakdown. So hopefully I've been able to position you in a, I guess, better mindset for what comes up next. I think it's going to be quite challenging. Some of you may not, but to me, I'm starting to see how all of this is lining up, and we're going to see bigger moves later. But those moves start before the mania, before everyone says, oh, alt season is on now. No, the alt season is the build up into that period. Like, what do you call August to now. 700% move, not enough of an alt season. Sure, we might see another 700% move to the upside, but I think the alt season builds and then it gets the blow off move. Just like the Bitcoin move, as we, I try to warn every single time at the lows or around the lows. I'm not trying to pick the exact low, but at that time, it just sounds like and looks like and feels like that we're probably bouncing around a low. And if you're patient enough, you're going to see the big moves after that. And from there, Bitcoin at 15K to where it is now, it's a nice 500% move. Like, subscribe, go and check out the Black Friday sale that's coming up next week, and also the free mini masterclass looking at what to do with your profits at the end of the cycle. I'll see you guys at the next video or in Sydney tomorrow at the Australian Crypto Convention, Saturday morning, 9:45, Bing X Lounge, Networking Lounge. See you guys there. Until the next one, take care and peace out.